Turning our attention to cricket now. Cricket West Indies confirmed earlier on Monday that Nicholas Pooran has stepped down as West Indies Limited Overs captain after just 7 months in charge. This comes after a dismal performance by the Windies at the T20 World Cup in Australia last month. In a statement, Pooran said, "I have given the captaincy a great deal of thought since the enormous disappointment of the T20 World Cup. I took on the role with great pride and dedication and have given it absolutely everything over the past year. The T20 World Cup is something that must not define us, and I will readily get involved in the upcoming reviews. And whilst it will be several months until we reconvene as a squad, I want to give CWI plenty of time to prepare for the matches against South Africa in March and beyond. This is not me giving up. I remain ambitious and still view the captaincy of West Indies cricket as an honour that is bestowed upon you. There is no doubt I remain fully committed to West Indies cricket, and I look forward to providing my services as a senior player in a supportive role. By stepping down now as the West Indies white ball captain, I believe it is in the best interest of the team and for me personally, as I need to concentrate on what I can deliver to the side as a player. I desperately want us to be successful, and the most value I can give to the team is through fully focusing on the role of consistently scoring runs at crucial times." Well, Nikhil Uttamchandani joins us now to give us his perspective. Good afternoon, Nikhil.
Hi, good afternoon to you, Maria. Thanks for having me on the zone.
Yeah, we didn't plan to talk to you about this topic, news breaking earlier today. What do you make of Nicholas Pooran stepping down? Just the timing and the decision, a big one.
I think anytime a captain steps down from the helm, it's not a good thing. Obviously, coming after the recent T20 World Cup and the exit. But I think when I look at the entire decision from Pooran, and whilst I think, exit from a World Cup or bad results doesn't only come down to captain or coach. But what I do think is important is sort of, if you look at Pooran as a player, and I felt the captaincy just took a toll on him in terms of his performances. And you look at the numbers in both the One International and the T20 International formats, and that's clear. As captain in one-day cricket, especially 17 matches, an average of 28, and without the captaincy, played over 40 matches, an average 41. So I think we all know he's one of the most talented, one of the most skilled batters in the region, and we need a full-firing Nicholas Pooran, I think, to have that full performance in West Indies white ball cricket. So I'm looking forward now to seeing with this weight off his shoulders how he's able to come back, and I have no doubts that I'm sure he'll be very committed to West Indies cricket when he does return.
Nikhil, do you get the sense that something is wrong with West Indies cricket because we've had so many different captains being sacked, so many different captains stepping down? It appears to me, looking on from the outside, like it's a toxic role.
Well, Maria, I don't know if you could say something's wrong. I think it definitely is not a great thing that we keep replacing captains, but I think in the Caribbean, we have this tendency to jump to blaming bad performances straight away on captains and coaches. And whilst I do think they have to take some of the blame, of course, being the leaders in the team, I think these are problems that are a lot more systemic, and I think start from a level way below the captain itself. So I think we need to have structural change within West Indies cricket, starting all the way from the grassroots level. And I think this World Cup was a good eye-opener in terms of how we play our cricket and the differences in the way we look at cricket going forward in the region. So I do think, yes, it's a bit of a concern that we keep continuously changing captains, but I think greater attention needs to be put on things bigger than just the captaincy.
Yeah, I remember Shivnarine Chandapal some time ago giving up the captaincy pretty shortly after he was appointed captain as well, for similar reasons, Nikhil, to what you just assessed with Nicholas Pooran. And as he himself has suggested that he thinks he could probably be more value to the team, scoring a lot of runs, because we know he has ability. But I can't help but feel that his Super 50 loss as the T&T captain over the weekend to the Jamaica Scorpions probably triggered some of his decision. I can't see if he had won that title over the weekend if we would have gotten this decision by him today.
No, Lance. I think you may have still got it, because I think Super 50 captaincy and West Indies captaincy is two magnificent different things in the sense of just the reputation and what's at stake. I mean, these are positions in terms of being a West Indies captain where millions of people in the region and globally have eyes on you, whereas the Super 50 is a bit less. But I'm not looking past the fact that it could have had some impact, but I think unfortunately it was inevitable. And I'm sure his mentors and people that he would have looked to for advice would have told him, look, Nicholas, we want to see you firing in full force. And clearly, as we've had a big sample size now, 17 matches in the one-day international format and 23 in the T20 international format, you're not yourself. And clearly performances are being impacted. I think looking at those two things, I would have said, I believe it's the right decision. Now, I'm not putting all the blame on Pooran in terms of the West Indies exit and the poor performances, but I just believe, West Indies cricket is better when Pooran is firing, and we definitely need him in a top order that has struggled over the last calendar year. So in the end, I think it was probably the right decision made, and who they appoint next will be very interesting.
Yeah, that's where I'm going to go with this, because I have for years suggested that I always feel that there is too much criticism and finger pointing at captains when they fail for the West Indies, when it is obvious that the team isn't performing. And, it's hard for anyone who becomes captain. There are many now in the Caribbean who feel that Rovman Powell, back-to-back T20 and ODI winning captain with the Jamaica Scorpions and the Jamaica Talawas, is probably in pole position to become the captaincy. But for me, I would worry about that myself if it does happen.
But I think, Lance, the real worry will be that Rovman Powell is, especially in the one-day international format, he's not nailed. This is a man that was just dropped from the last series against New Zealand, and he's only averaged 13 runs in the one-day internationals he's played this year in 8 matches. So for me, that is a big concern. But what I will say that's encouraging is I look at his two performances in both the tournaments, the CPL and the Caribbean Super 50, and I just see a whole new brand of responsibility when he has that captaincy tag, and definitely is something that I'm encouraged by. And I'm now wanting to see if that can transition into the international format, because, this is something where I look at a completely different Rovman Powell. I'll take, for example, that 100 he made in the semi-final against the Guyana Harpy Eagles, 105 from 92 deliveries, ensuring that he remained there till the very final run was scored. And to chase over 300, we know is not an easy task in a 50-over game, especially in the region. So the way that he's gone about things with the bat in hand, I'm really interested to see now if he does get the captaincy, if it makes him a better player. But from my observations of him in the two tournaments, on the opposite side of someone like a Pooran, I would argue and say, I think the captaincy actually helps Powell. And just speaking to him, in interviews, etc., and hearing him throughout the CPL and Super 50, he actually mentions that he thrives under the pressure. But of course, as I said before, the pressure of a Super 50 and the pressure of international cricket is two vast different things. So it'll be interesting, but I do believe he's probably the front runner for the position, being the vice captain in the T20 international team especially.
Yeah. Well, staying with cricket, Jamaica Scorpions are regional CG United Super 50 champions for the first time in 10 years after beating Trinidad and Tobago Red Force by 3 wickets in Saturday's final at the Sir Vivian Richards Stadium in North Sound, Antigua and Barbuda. Batting first, the Red Force were dismissed for 217 in 47 overs. Yannick Carrier and Akil Hussain top scored with 43 and 37 respectively, while Nicholson Gordon grabbed 3 for 51. They set 218 for victory. The Scorpions reached 218 for 7, led by 80 from Chadwick Walton and 55 from Andre McCarthy, against 2 wickets each from Terence Hines and Carey Pear, to win by 3 wickets with 18 balls to spare. Nikhil, the Scorpions richly deserving of this victory?
Definitely. I told you guys last time we came on the zone, I think you look at their outfit balance. And to dethrone the defending champions in Trinidad and Tobago Red Force, a team that had only lost 4 wickets twice coming into that game in the season, I felt that was just an amazing performance. And Powell mentioned it. I find their batting was probably on the imbalanced side. We're very reliant on him and Brandon King, who came to the party in almost every game. But to me, it's all about that bowling lineup. Very versatile, very able to adapt to different situations throughout the tournament. And I look at the fact that they had 4 of their wicket takers in the top 10 in the tournament. And it told you something. Nicholson Gordon was brilliant. With his 15 wickets, Odin Smith chipped in as well as what you expect from an international, but the spin as well. My goodness, Javor Roya with his left arm spin, And the way Powell used him as well in situations I felt was brilliant. But then Dennis Pooley, who many would not have expected to contribute the way he did. And then even someone like a Merchant at times and a Pete Salmon towards the back end of the tournament. So for me, versatility and I think deserved a victory for the Jamaica Scorpions. First in 10 years, a massive, massive win for them.
Yeah, they were brilliant with the ball, dismissing the Red Force in 47 overs. And then they were also great with the bat because they won the match in 47 overs. Chadwick Walton, one of the standout batters.
Yeah, for me, that was a big surprise. Chadwick Walton is someone 37 years old, hasn't played Super 50 cricket since 2018, and not many would have had him returning to the squad. But when he did make that return, it was controversial. Got a couple starts when he came in the tournament in place of Blackwood. But then in this final, as soon as they lost Brandon King, it just felt like he took over that bulk of responsibility in a final, experience playing at the highest level for a long time. And man, was he impressive. Stroke play, management of the situation. Even though I felt he was a bit fortunate against Narayan, a couple of deliveries I thought could have been given out. He made full use of that opportunity. And for him to stand up like that in a final, pressure on, 80 on the board, well, yeah, for him, and knowing exactly what they have to chase, I thought it was a huge performance from a veteran.
Yeah, and we heard Andrew Richardson, the coach of the Jamaica Scorpions, Nikhil, along with Nikita Miller, who is the assistant coach, praising the selector's decision to go with experience in the squad, because with John Campbell on suspension, there may have been a temptation to use a younger, more developing player at the top end, but they went for Chadwick Walton. And as we saw in the final, Andre McCarthy, a lot of experience, but he was so poor throughout the campaign that he could have lost his position for the final, but they stuck with him, and he battled on with a central partnership there himself and Walton with a 55. That was by far his best knock of the tournament, and it came at the right time.
Yeah, I think hindsight is 20/20, Lance. Javor Royale being the youngest member of the team, 23 years old, most of the members being 30, 35 and up. And whilst I think, yes, and when you look back on it in hindsight, they won the tournament. So obviously they did something right. And Andrew Richardson mentioned the fact that he banked on experience throughout the tournament, him and Nikita Miller. What I would say is I feel you want to develop cricket going forward, you need to have that sort of added influx of young talent. I mean, they could have easily gone to someone like a Leroy Lugg, who I felt would have been a really good option at the top, young player who's developing and just played in the CPL, but they went the other way and went with the experience, and in the end it worked for them. But I just feel if we want to grow West Indies cricket on a whole, using our only domestic white ball tournament in the Super 50, I feel we need to have greater younger talent getting that exposure. For me, I was very happy with the West Indies Academy, and even though they only won the one game against the Scorpions, I saw a lot of glimpses that, made me feel good about what's to come in the future. So definitely would want to see a bit more emphasis on younger talent and their development going forward in the years to come.
Okay, Nikhil, thanks for talking to us here, and great work on commentary with the CG United Super 50, and we look forward to chatting with you again.
Thanks a lot for having me, man, and congrats to the guys in the studio for the win.
Yeah, man. Okay, great. Nikhil Chandani there, Barbadian journalist and commentator on the success of the Scorpions and the CP in the Super 50, and also the big news today, Nicholas Pooran stepping down as West Indies white ball captain. We go to break now. Still more to come on the SportsMax Zone, including the second zone updates with Mariah.